Hey, John, it says we're live.
Awesome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm just going to pop this little guy on the screen first.
This
And
AI generated robot is going to be the bane of my existence.
well, this is just one. I have lots of them. If you
No,
haven't
but like
noticed,
this one with like the two eyes and the ears
yeah,
on the side and the
yeah.
rectangle face. Yeah.
Well, I love my AI images, and with the new Flux Dev and
Yeah.
Flux Schnell, you can create some really good things reasonably fast and local and whatnot. And we'll be putting on some stuff around that, how to do this, but that'll probably be related in a different AI video series slash
Ooh, I like that.
podcast that we'll be
Yep.
doing, where we'll cover these kinds of things, where the new models come out, how to install them, what to do with them, are they any good, that kind of stuff. And if were you paying attention to Nvidia just launched their tweaked llama model, which apparently outperforms a lot of the closed source and much higher
Really?
billion models. Yeah.
No,
So
I haven't. I'll have to look into that.
yeah, I was watching the video. In the end, I don't know if it was newsworthy to make it a subject completely, so
Yeah.
I'll have to do a deeper dive. But saying that, we might as well jump into these things. That should have given people a long enough time to join us. Um, so this first one, you dropped an article about Sequoia and generative AI's Act O1, which obviously is a play on
Yeah.
strawberry. Um, Tell me what's going on and what your thoughts are, because I've got different thoughts, and that's great.
Yeah, no, that's what I like. So yeah, the article kind of talks about the evolution of generative AI from rapid pre-trained responses to more deliberate reasoning responses. So the foundation layer of the Gen AI market is stabilizing, I would say, maybe with specifically with key players. So you got Microsoft OpenAI, AWS Anthropic, Meta, Google DeepMind, or Gemini, whatever you want to call it. So OpenAI's O1 model, it's highlighted as quite a significant advancement, and I think you would agree with that because it demonstrates true general reasoning capabilities achieved through inference time compute, right? So it draws parallels between AlphaGo's approach and the emerging reasoning capabilities in language models, but also emphasizes the importance of what we'll call it system two thinking of in AI, which I think system two is a huge leap. So in this article, they propose a new scaling law. So the more inference time compute given to a model, the better it reasons. I would say that makes sense, but I'm happy to discuss that. So the shift towards inference time compute is expected to move the industry towards inference clouds that can scale dynamically based on task complexity, which is great. So we're thinking scalability, spinning up things. So the article also discusses the potential impact on SaaS industry, suggesting as a transition to service as a software business models, which I think makes sense. And the last one that I think makes sense, it explores the investment landscape in AI. And what they're suggesting is that the application layer may be the most interesting for venture capitals going forward. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely think the application layer is the most interesting for investors going forward. It's funny that you mentioned this, because I was having a discussion with the investor John Ruffalo on LinkedIn, because he was talking about how investors are going to be focused on the application layer on very similar things. And I was asking him some questions about that. So it'll be interesting to see if there's specific areas and markets that they're going after when they're talking about where they're going to invest in AI at the application layer.
Yeah, um, but it makes sense. And for those that don't know, there's essentially seven layers. The application layer is the topmost layer, and it directly interacts with end user applications and provides network services to applications and defines protocols and applications that use to exchange data. There's other layers. There's the presentation layer, the session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. But we won't get into those. So that's the OSI model. I know, Jesus, that brought me back to my school days.
Ages ago. I wonder if I'm just checking to see if there's an OSI map here on the page. Keep talking.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, so like obviously AI is not going anywhere, and we all know that we're getting closer to true AI, but it's still more machine learning, right? It's still following a set of instructions, and um, although I think I did read that one of the models did pass the Turing test, which I don't know how relevant the Turing test is nowadays, um, but that being said, um, it does make sense that the application layer for integration with AI to get investors makes the most sense, because it's the one that's the most closely related to software development, as far as like if someone's building a app, right? So
it's the part of the app we use.
yes, exactly. So it makes sense that when for those of you who are integrating AI into your pitch decks, that makes the most sense at the application layer, because then it just integrates easily. It's less onerous on you to explain it and how it integrates, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. So when I say the application layer is what you use, like you may have the model in the back end may switch. The reasoning may switch, but the application layer is the one that talks to you and what talks to the other apps.
Yeah.
So it's what makes SaaS work.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
This is
So
really go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, what are your thoughts though? Like you said you had some thoughts on this.
Well, the
Or did
price
I
per
cover them?
no, you didn't cover them because I was talking about. I like how where that was going, but when you posted this article, I took a completely different approach, where we're standing on the new era of AI, age of reasoning, right? We're saying I read this article, it's like, okay, great, we're strawberry and is a leap forward in reasoning. Well, yes and no. We find that some other models beat it on several things. We find that open ChatGPT 4 beats it on certain things. Though lately, ChatGPT 4 has been what I would say underperforming for me. So I wonder if they are taking it down as a result of putting more processing power into other things, or whether it's just feeling under the weather or whatnot. But my point being is that there was a lot of white papers that have went out, including that recent one from Apple that says, you know what, these things really aren't thinking. They're just doing some pattern matching. They don't
Yeah.
understand what's happening. Large language models lack true understanding and reasoning capabilities, despite their advanced pattern recognitions. Incorporating casual reasoning is insufficient to overcome fundamental limitations in AI. Things like they change one word in something, and 75% of the time it would take it off in a completely different direction.
Yeah. Well, that's also the hallucination problem, right?
Right.
Because they lose the context.
Yeah.
So here's what I think where we're at right now. We're in the fake it till you make it stage.
Yeah.
So we're in the fake it till you make it, because you are essentially making it seem like it's AI without it being AI, because of all the rules that you've written. The strawberry thing, I would say, is a programming error as far as how they handle the tokenization of the input and output, and so they just fixed that with O4 and added that reasoning to kind of give you a little bit more transparency, but also I think to help them in the long run to develop better models, because now the output is you're seeing how it's coming up with the answer, checking itself, but that also helps the people who are building these LLMs as well, right? So yeah, I think we're in the fake it till you make it stage as far as when it comes to AI.
Absolutely. And when I was talking at the beginning about that new NVIDIA tweaked model, it uses, I think, Llama 3.170B, and it outperforms the 405B. And open ChatGPT 4 and O1 on some things and Claude on some things. But one of the tests they were talking about is they ask a straightforward question at the beginning and then put in a bunch of different information that's irrelevant to the question. Meaning, like the example, give you an example. Steve is in line and is about to purchase the pencil, stapler, and paper. The pencil costs $5, the stapler costs $10, and the paper is $4.50. How much money does he need to buy this stuff? Last week, the items were on sale for 10% off for pencils, 20% off for paper. It goes on and adds all this different information and puts it in. And most of the time, these reasoning models will get it wrong. And even O1 strawberry. So we take a step back and then it said, well, one of the things they found is if you added a line at the end that says, please read this prompt again, that a lot of times it would catch that. And strawberry, it would realize that the rest of the information was irrelevant because it would reread the question. And so, oh yeah, okay, and it catch it rather than trying to figure that out. So again, it's not reasoning, it's using skip logic. And it's funny, as I play with a lot of these imaging tools and stuff, you got to be very specific. And I use AI to help me with some of these prompts, but it's not very good at prompt engineering.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how does this translate to because you use a lot of image generating models, right?
Yeah.
So how does this translate to what you do as far as like, do you have to get it to redo it? Do you have to work, like, have you worked on do you have a prompt that works every time? Do you have to change it? Like what?
You definitely have to change it every time. There's a lot of randomness, like a lot of randomness. I'm working in a system, and for example, we're doing some stuff. I'm on this whole AI robot kick, as you saw that graphic. So I'm creating a bunch of those images, which is great. And I get a pair of robots that I like, and I keep telling it to use the same robots. And sometimes it would come up with similar robots, and sometimes there'd be completely different robots. So, as an example, there are ways to do it. There are things, models you can use where you can say image to image. So based on this image, create another image. But those are kind of finicky too. But they're coming along. They're all coming along. And when you tell it to do stuff, a lot of times, like this is a great example. The prompts was when I was creating robots, create 2 identical robots. One is this color green and one is this color blue. But the problem is, once you say identical robots, most of the time the robots will look identical. It will ignore one is blue and one is green. They'll just be identical. So they'll make them both blue or make them both green. It'll just, and those are prompts generated by AI. And then I go back to it and say, okay, let's not use this word because then it ignores these other words, and let's change this and change this. And it comes back with a better prompt. And I'm ideally trying to train it, at least in those conversations, to help me better. But it actually doesn't, it helps you better for a couple of prompts, but that's it. I want to give you another example. When I was setting up some of the local LLMs and some of the models and stuff, I was using ChatGPT to help me do the configuration. And I'm saying, okay, we're setting this up on my Mac. And, we went through all the wrong commands and got the right commands and got what ports everything's on. And I got it to create a configuration document for me. So, okay, let's create this configuration document so I can have it. So I will remember IPs, ports, containers, buckets, API calls, API endpoints, all that stuff. Got it. And then I ask it later, got the document. And then I say, okay, I want to do this with it. And it comes back with 10 different options. Only one of those options apply to my configuration. If you're using Docker, do this. If you're using this, do this. If you're using this, like, wait a minute. We just did my configuration. You just created my configuration document. You have all this information, yet, you're going to give completely out of context stuff again.
Yeah.
and we're in that conversation. So like you say, it loses context all the time
Yeah.
and can't keep that conversation. Now that's you need longer token lengths. ChatGPT 4 was better, I would say, a couple of weeks ago than it is now. I think it loses, whether they've shortened the context length or whatever, it loses that context much quicker than it used to. Anyway,
That's why
those, yeah, go ahead.
the two so ranking these three from favorite to least favorite: Perplexity 1, Claude 2, and ChatGPT, I would even say 4. I always just check ChatGPT. ChatGPT does have a larger context window when I'm trying to do like a lot of big things, but the other two, when you have shorter context windows, those are phenomenal. Did you also know that you can ask how much context it has left?
I did not. I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah, you can ask how much context it has left in that chat. Yeah.
I've asked it why it keeps losing context, and it just gives me apologies. And I'm like,
yeah,
like we talked about briefly, I yell at it a lot because I'm like, why are you giving me this information? We're talking about this. I just told you to do this. And usually I'm not like getting mad. I'm saying like, why did you do that? How do I make sure you don't do that again? How do I?
Oh, that's smart. What does it say?
Well, sometimes it tells me, oh, great. Like, cause this is what I do is like, let's work together. So you understand me more and I can prompt you better. So we got a better understanding. And it usually comes back, oh, that's great. Next time do this or that. And because the first time I said, you got this wrong. Do better. It says, I'm sorry. No, I don't mean do better. Like somebody's lecturing you. I mean, how do we, I meant this. How do we make that sure you get that? And like things like I would tell it to give me a doc, blah, 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 blah. But if I want the output in a doc file, pretty much the last thing I have to do is give me the output in a doc file.
Yeah.
You can ask it at the beginning, you can ask it in the middle, but it doesn't really do it unless you put it at the end. As an example, it's one of those things you start working with. It's okay, but you build your better prompts that way. Are we at the age of reasoning? I don't know. There's a lot of flaws in this, and the more I use it, I love it in a lot of ways. AI, it helps me. Blank page syndrome helps me fill in blanks. It helps me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
As a mostly solopreneur, but it's very frustrating in a lot of other ways. So
for sure,
it's got a long way to go. I keep seeing, by 2025, we're going to hit a certain level of intelligence. I'm not sure that's actually going to happen.
Yeah. And one last thing before we move on, I just, since we're on the topic of AI, and I know you and I have both done this, but for those of you that don't know or haven't heard of this, I would suggest going to your whatever AI you're using and asking from all of our interactions, what is one thing that you can tell me about myself that I may not know about myself?
Yeah, that apparently came from Sam Altman and stuff, so it was pretty interesting to do.
Yeah, I know you posted about it on LinkedIn, so guys, go check out Craig's LinkedIn post. It's phenomenal. It's actually great, and people are responding. So, and feel free to chime in on what you guys think, and we can cover it more in depth on another time. But I just wanted to bring that up.
So let's chat about this next one, Elon Musk's We Robot event.
Yeah, so I watched some videos on it. I've heard some TikTok videos on it. Some people are saying it was faked, which they're not totally wrong because it was all done at a Hollywood studio in a controlled environment, which that's fine, right? Step by step. But Elon Musk is all. Go
okay,
ahead.
let's take a step back and say when you say people say it was fake, it was fake. So it wasn't a Hollywood studio, but when you say controlled environment, most of those robots were being remotely controlled, and the voice was a person talking through the robot.
Oh, I didn't see any information on that. That's interesting. I believe it though. What I thought was that obviously, was it Universal Studios? Is that where they did it? Universal Studios or whatever a Hollywood studio they did it in. It's got a set map of roads and stuff like that. So I figured that they just programmed in that map that it could handle it. But
I can't speak to the cars. I can only speak to the robots.
Oh, the robots were, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
They
just
were
saying,
remotely controlled. Sorry,
yeah,
I thought
I
you meant,
can't
yeah.
speak to the cars, but the robots were being remotely controlled in the
I've heard
conversation.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of videos because people were there at the party with a bartender making drinks, talking to them, and they kept asking them, "Are you completely, or are you human controlled?" And they'd be like, "Tonight, I am human assisted," or whatever. And it's and I say from the different voices, you could tell it was human
Yeah.
from the conversation. And he's passing the Turing test and stuff because you heard like the conversation going back and forth and stuff. It was way more natural. The voice was way more natural than what I have seen in a lot of these other tools, and I've seen a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So my question to you is, did he present it as that these robots were autonomous, or did he just present it as, here are our robots kind of thing? Like, was it misinformation or was it genuine?
I honestly didn't watch the whole presentation of him. I was reading the articles and then watching the videos
Yeah.
of people. So he did say at one point, we've come a long way, because when they first started this, it was just a human in a suit. And so I would assume that he was being honest about it.
But we
But
haven't come a
no,
long way because we've had surgical robots for years that are remote.
yeah, I'm just, but
Yeah,
you say
I know.
surgical, these are surgical robots that are remote, are very specific things. They're not walking around talking to people, serving drinks, taking your
No.
hat, opening doors, picking up envelopes, doing random stuff. So saying that
Yeah.
you have robots that can do that, um, probably with some safety stuff, so it doesn't accidentally punch somebody. uh,
Yeah. True.
that they have come a long way, but
Yeah.
it did come across to people and me, that these
Yeah.
are the new Optimus robots, amazing, let's look at
Yeah.
this, like, and they're complete, oh no, they're took a while, and like, no, these are controlled, or at least somebody was talking through them, and that makes a lot more sense. And I guess this is again how you train these AIs, right? You train them
Yeah.
by the
Showing them.
AIs, yeah, showing them. The AI is there watching them, what you're doing, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he's talking about, there was a lot of stuff unveiled at this event, and Elon suggests that the robots are going to be the biggest product ever
I
of
think
all
so.
humanity. And he's
I,
expecting them to be $20,000 to $30,000, and everyone will have one. Well, everyone who can afford it, I guess.
yeah. Um. My and it reminds me of iRobot. What was the company?
Yeah.
Because they are a real company in real life. Who was the company that they used in iRobot? Do you
I'm
remember?
not sure, but I did see that tweet that was saying, "Hey, Elon, we want our designs back," and they were showing the movie and the comparison. And I don't think Elon has been, like, literally called the event the "We Robot" event. Like, he's not being shy about, we've taken these things, but those things are public images now. It was in a movie. There's nothing, people can, hey, I want my design back. Well, it's sorry.
Yeah. US Robotics. That's what it was.
Oh,
Remember US
really?
Robotics? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That was the
yeah.
company that was used. That was depicted in the film.
Oh, interesting. They
Yeah.
were the best modem company for a long time.
They were.
I know, that's what that's,
That's what I remember them as. Yeah. Yeah.
my age here. So these robots looked really impressive, but we still don't know when.
No, we don't.
So,
Obviously, he
yeah,
built them, right? But
yeah,
the autonomy side of things, I think that's years away.
they're impressive looking. They fold down to nothing. They look like they have a lot of capabilities. So when the AI is there, and that's the
Yeah.
question, is when will the AI be there that you can just, and then when will they be able to mass produce them?
Yeah. Like we obviously have autonomous robots now in
Yep.
manufacturing, but those are specific. That's a specific. There's specific limits. There's specific instructions on movements and things like that. This is taking that one step further, or way further, right? Um, so I think that if you implement some of those basic principles from those manufacturing robots into this, I'm sure that's what they're doing, or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
So I take a step back, and this is a great article here on TorontoStarts.com that talks about not only the robot, but the Tesla robotaxi and a couple other things that were announced. And it does a little bit of a deep dive. So I take, and the impact on transportation industry and whatnot. But I'm saying if as an individual or as a company, I can now hire AI robots or buy them for $20,000 to $30,000, what jobs do they replace?
Mowing the lawn, but then you can also get a
No, but
lawn mowing robot.
retail, doing the
Retail,
dishes, bartending,
bartending for sure. Yeah, bartending for sure.
cooking in the
Sorry, bartenders. Sorry.
no, well, this is, I used to take,
Yeah,
so I take a step back and say, all right, you know, for 30 grand, I can get a robot that works 24 hours a day or, whatever period of time. I'm assuming 12 hours a day, but I have power sources and whatnot. Uh, instead of paying someone a salary. So what's my return on investment? And then people say our productivity is going to go up and it's going to release all this stuff. But is this going to come a better economy? Sorry, are the Wii robots going to result in a better economy where we're all going to have more, or is it going to result in the fact that the rich will get richer because they're not paying people
yeah.
because they have robots, and the poor won't have
Okay.
jobs, so they're going to get poorer, and we're going to have this bigger divide?
Well, it's just like as we evolve here, like with AI taking jobs and these potentially taking jobs, these people who are currently in these jobs are going to have to pivot. Either they are the ones who are, when it comes to AI, who are the ones who are embracing AI and can leverage it, or they lose their jobs or they find another job. Or with robots, that's different, right? So bartender, I don't know. Like you could have someone who stocks the bar automatically. You could have the robot who serves. I don't know if there's a use case for a human interaction. Maybe a supervisor, a human supervisor,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking. A bar would have a bar manager just to make sure, but you'd have
For
like a
now,
robot bartender and a robot in the kitchen. You have them running, you don't need
yeah.
staff.
I think honestly, in Japan or China, they already have that. They already have concierge check-ins. They already have hotel robots for you to check in with. I think the biggest challenge for these robots is social acceptance.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Will we rebel, or will we, accept them? And a lot of people looked at this and said Skynet is here, right? You throw AI into these bots, that's
Yeah,
probably updated from a central server somewhere.
yep,
And Elon Musk has got his own, made one of the biggest AI things on the planet. What do we
yeah.
computers?
Didn't he build the first supercomputer with these GPUs?
Yeah, I think
Didn't
he
NVIDIA
claims he's
tout
got the
it
biggest, the
briefly?
most powerful.
Yeah, most powerful. Yeah. So watch out. Stay on Elon Musk's good side. We love you, Elon.
Yeah, the what did you think about the robotaxi?
So, well, obviously, made me think of iRobot. It's very similar. Same with the vehicles. So the bus, I don't mind. A lot of people have hate on it, but hey, you're enclosed. Not having glass, you can have cameras that show that like you're safer in that kind of thing. So, um, I don't mind it. I think it's futuristic. I think I didn't mind the design at all. But obviously, calling it We Robot and having these designs that align with the iRobot movie, there were some parallelisms and similarities, obviously, that he was going for. But yeah, I thought it was great. I don't mind full autonomy as long as all cars end up being fully autonomous, because if you have full autonomy on the road without all cars being fully autonomous, you're not alleviating traffic.
Yeah.
You're actually could potentially be causing more traffic jams because of the mix of the two. But um for the yeah,
It's called the
I
monkey
don't
at the
mind full.
wheel problem. Look it up.
What's that?
It's called the monkey at the wheel problem. Look it up
Okay.
for those people who want to
Yeah.
follow up. It is why, we can't have nice things like this, is that it only takes one human in the mix to F things up.
Yeah. Honestly, so I think that there is a technology that is needed to be integrated into these autonomous driving vehicles that has not been integrated yet. I think there's a missing piece in order for it to be fully safe and secure. or pieces, but I think there's a bunch of things missing.
They're
I
getting
don't
there.
think I don't think with the current tech that they're using, even if it's LiDAR, cameras, whatever, I don't think they can achieve the autonomy that they're looking to achieve without integrating. And I don't know what it is. I'm not an expert. I don't know what it is, but I think there's a missing piece or missing pieces.
They still have problems. I want to get off this one, but they still have
Yeah.
problems. You can tell. You can read the stories where it doesn't know what to do in emergency situations, doesn't know what to do when there's police or sirens or
Yeah.
fire trucks or whatever. It just kind of stops and it ends up blocking traffic, and then it's chaos for people. So there are a lot of situations where it doesn't know what it to do. So I think
And
we have
that's
a
fine though. Like when it comes to emergency services, and I had this idea years ago, is put a chip into, this is before smart like the displays, but put a chip into all radios that when there's a vehicle, an emergency vehicle approaching, it automatically mutes everything in the car so that you can hear it. All you need to do is do that with the vehicles, something like that.
All right. Let's jump on to this next one. So Elon had a lot of fun this week catching rockets.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know how big of an achievement this is like huge, huge. I would say it's bigger than the Wii Robot event because the engineering needed in order for SpaceX to launch a rocket and then catch it with the chopsticks is like, I can't even fathom the difficulty. And I understand engineering somewhat, right? But like, it's nuts, absolutely nuts.
First time it's been done ever.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible accomplishment. SpaceX is moving faster than almost any of the other companies, at least publicly, that we're aware of. No one else has got anywhere near the publicity they do.
No.
And
they're doing it right though too. Like they are what NASA used to be.
Yeah, and as a private company, they're iterating fast and they're figuring things out and breaking new ground. Like I'm starting to believe that the Mars thing's going to happen. Maybe not quite in Elon's timeline, but you start to see this stuff, and the plan next time is to catch like the whole thing, right?
Yeah. My question is though, right? They're going to have to build that on Mars first. And obviously the gravity is going to be different. So they're going to have to do all those different calculations, but they're going to need to build those chopsticks on Mars first. So they're going to have to.
Not necessarily. Like the first time you what'll probably happen is you'll build a space station outside of Mars.
Yeah.
So you got a refueling station, you got all that kind of stuff there, so the rockets can land there. But also you just dump people, or you have to dump material and all that stuff because they have to have all these things to exist. So the first couple of runs you don't need this because I don't think the rocket that's going into space is going down. They might have a module that goes down or landing modules the first few times then they will build these on the other end potentially, because you just dock with a space station at this point because the big rockets are gone. So they'll need, refueling and whatever other rockets to be put on there. Right. So this is great, but their plan is to, they're talking about the goal is to have these things turn around in an hour.
Yeah.
That
so
you could come
land, I know you have
this video. Refuel and go. Go ahead. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I know you have this video on loop. I need people to realize how, like, that is straight up once the way that it gets in between those chopsticks and it's caught, like it is so accurately. I think it's probably exactly perpendicular from the ground. Straight up, it looks like how accurate they get. It's crazy. Like it blows me away. Kudos to Elon and the team at SpaceX for sure.
Yeah, this is an incredible accomplishment. And, while they're doing this, there's been an ongoing feud with SpaceX and the FAA about a bunch of stuff. The FAA commissioner comes on and says a whole bunch of things, and Elon says none of that is true. Then they comes on and says another thing, and Elon comes out and says none of that is true. And then, while this was happening, the FAA was having some big meeting, and did you hear what they were saying? They were saying because of his tweets and his political stances, we don't think we need to slow him down. It's like, what?
We
Like,
don't think we need to slow him down, or we
no,
need
no,
to slow him down.
they need to slow him down. They're
So
like,
I think
they all need to
here's
be
the thing.
replaced. They all need to be gone.
I think the FAA is too archaic to keep up with with the evolution and the innovation that's happening.
Yeah, they literally said he's too involved with the election, and some of the things he says, they don't want him doing this. They literally came out and said it. The people that run the FAA in this
Yeah,
meeting, it's like,
yeah,
okay, they all have to go. Like, that's the limitation. So somehow someone is politically different than you, and you've decided then that their company can't succeed and they
yeah.
can't be in this business. And
It,
this company is the one that's leading the space race in America. So you're deliberately destroying their chances of success to let China and Russia and whatever, because Elon supports a different political party than you, or he
I think it
supports
goes
free
deeper than
speech
that.
online. No, but that
I,
they both said
yeah,
both things. It's like, okay,
yeah,
you know, I don't mind, obviously you got rights
yeah.
around environmental, ecological, technical, safety, all the things. But when you go outside that, I start to say, they all need to be gone. They all need to be gone.
Yeah, for
FAA
sure.
needs to be
Yeah,
rebuilt from the ground up. And maybe Elon will have the chance to do this because they're coming out and saying that Boeing is better. They've recently rated Boeing way better than SpaceX, even though SpaceX has to go and get their astronauts back. And, it's really becoming a problem.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's obviously that they're leaning one way or another. Uh, they're anti-Elon.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest reasons, though, is that their ego is bruised because they're realizing that Elon is doing things. Obviously, he's going about it the wrong way with the FAA, and he's pissed people off, right? So he's not doing things politically right. Boeing is obviously paying the FAA, and we know this. We know that they're not paying, but we know that there is some corruption there between the FAA and Boeing.
Yep.
So they have some influence, and so all of that culminates. Like I'm not a huge fan of Elon's political views, and we can debate that all day long. Everyone has their own political views. We won't get into that. But
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, he's innovating. He's the one who's moving humanity forward when it comes to space exploration and a bunch of other things. And I think the FAA is just they've realized that they're behind. They don't know how to catch up, and their egos are bruised because Elon is pushing boundaries. Obviously, he's not following every rule, which we know because he's been fined. But maybe the rules need to be changed.
Absolutely. Maybe the rules need to be changed. Elon's a bully. Let's face it. I'm not trying to
Yes, he is.
suggest.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah,
Yeah. And, my point is, it doesn't matter which side of the political fence you're on. This has nothing to do with one, has nothing to do with the other. So let's stick with the facts and the
yeah,
science and the
exactly.
progression, not
Yeah.
the other stuff, because that is should have not shouldn't have any bearing. And that's all I'm saying. Because we
I
can
would
like
love to
someone.
get Neil deGrasse Tyson to chime in on this because
Okay.
he's a very scientific person. He understands everything. He's very well respected. I'd love to, but never will. But yeah,
But you talk about those fines, even them, Elon was not necessarily protesting, but he, came back with said, okay, you gave us a fine saying we move closer to people when in fact we move farther away. You said this when in fact we did the study and gave it to you ahead of schedule. All these things. And you're like, okay,
yeah,
but you fined us, almost 680,000 or $600 million, whatever it was. It was a huge fine as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, probably not a huge find as far as Elon is concerned.
yeah.
Um, and is it relevant? Like, this is the whole point. When they come out and they're politically motivated, otherwise, you got to kind of question everything now and say, well, we have no idea. I have no
Yeah.
idea what to believe now because you've already came out and said we can't let him succeed. because of these things. And like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess you need to be gone, rather than saying we can't let them succeed because it's a safety issue, because of these, because of this. You now know
No,
that.
they don't have any. They don't have a leg to stand on with
Yeah,
what they're
that's the
like.
problem. Like,
Yeah.
Elon's a bully pushing people around. We know that.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
he's always, but high level entrepreneurs, tell me which one isn't. Uber went into every
Exactly.
city and just started doing
Yeah.
it, and then just fought the city until they let them do it. They
Exactly.
all doing the same thing.
Speaking of which,
So
there's a great TV series. I don't know if it's miniseries or what on Uber, and it shows you how big of a bully they were. But that's what you need to do to change things, because you have these people who have these big egos who refuse to see that change is good and change is needed and innovation is needed, and we need to move forward. Like, I'll give you one example that people can relate to. In Europe, they've changed the headlight standards for cars, right? They have way better, way safer headlights because Europe has recognized that, yeah, innovation needs to be changed. We are so archaic with our transportation policies and what needs, like headlights and how they need to be designed and all that sort of stuff. It's so archaic. It's even hurting people nowadays. Like, it's horrible. And that's just one example. And there's an example in every industry with that. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this.
that's all right.
Get these dinosaurs out of here.
I 100% agree. So go to torontostarts.com, take a look at this article. It talks about the amazing stuff with him catching a rocket and why reusing rockets matters, and his mission to innovate and get to Mars. And it talks about the feud and early tensions and what specifically happened, and the SN8 high altitude test and its impact, and what the controversy is. The impact of the public statements, because Elon Musk is publicly critical of the FAA, so it's all over there. I know we didn't get through all of that, but it was a good discussion, and it's all over there at torontostarts.com, where you can find this article. You ready to
yeah, just one last thing. We probably won't cover Starlink today, but we should in another one. We should do another Elon coverage, because I think it's he's looking to do this is FCC now, not FAA, but yeah, we'll maybe cover it in another one. Just know, guys, that Elon is he's got an idea for gigabit per second broadband with his Starlink.
Yeah, it looks like he was planning that on that one we were talking about, 10 times the speed. And again, I forgot, I clicked over the torontostarts.com article and you guys didn't see it. So there's a lot of good information over there. So check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
All right. Next is, so this has been really interesting, and a lot of people probably don't know what's going on with the WordPress wars. What do you got? What are you thinking about what's happening here, John?
Yeah, so this, I'll admit, I've been following it, but very loosely. So I know that there's a company called Automatic, and it's the company behind WordPress.com, and that company is owned by the owner of WordPress.com, I think, and they're demanding 8% of WordPress's engine revenues, claiming that they're not giving back enough to WordPress. Now, what I understand is that the demand is kind of seen as a violation of the open source principles under which WordPress is distributed. And the other thing I understand is, like, there's a lot of employees at WordPress that have an issue with this as well, and I could be wrong, but I know that the history behind this is the situation is that Automatic used to be part owner of the WP engine before selling their stake. But that's kind of where my knowledge ends with this war.
All right. So, the WordPress war is becoming one of the most talked about things on the internet, but I don't think people really know. But the WordPress ecosystem is, most websites are built on WordPress, 40%, 60%, somewhere in there. Automatic is the company behind WordPress.com, and WP Engine is a major WordPress hosting provider. So at its core, the fight is over governance, contribution, and control within the ecosystem that serves millions of websites across the country, and obviously some trademark disputes in between there.
Yeah.
So, what began as a public disputes over contributions and profit sharing has escalated into legal battles, community rifts, and questions over the future of WordPress as an open source platform. So let's get into the timeline a little bit here. Back in September 2024, all the way back there, the conflict with Matt Mullenweg, the co-founder of WordPress and the CEO of Automatic, publicly criticized WordPress engine during a keynote address at WordCamp USA 2024.
Yeah.
So he accused the hosting provider of profiting from WordPress without contributing enough to the open source community, which is true. They weren't contributing anything, I think, at that time.
Oh, okay. Okay. So he's
So
got.
I've watched some interviews. In particular, WP Engine has built a business empire on WordPress, yet their contributions to open source core is minimal at best. So
Okay.
Automatic, in late September, Automatic initiated discussions on imposing a royalty-based licensing model for hosting providers using the WordPress trademark, including WordPress Engine or WP Engine. The proposition aimed to ensure that companies making money from WordPress contribute back to the development. WordPress.org in October 2024, recently restricted WP Engine's access to certain resources and developer tools, significantly disrupting WordPress's engine's ability to manage their customer websites. This move sparked outrage within the community as many users felt it unfairly penalized WP Engine customers who rely on WordPress for their businesses. So on October 3rd, in retaliation, WordPress Engine filed a lawsuit against Automatic and Matt Mullenweg, accusing them of libel, extortion, and anti-competitive behavior. The lawsuit claimed that Automatic was trying to monopolize WordPress ecosystem by punishing companies that pose competition to WordPress.com hosting services.
Interesting.
So on October 15th, the acquisition of Advanced Custom Fields, a plugin that I use, by the way, by Automatic, added fuel to the fire. ACF, one of the most popular plugins of WordPress ecosystem, has been a critical tool for developer. Its acquisition. So basically what happened is they just took it over. This is a product, a WordPress plugin developed by a different company. We're taking it over. It's ours now. So it's this acquisition raised concern about Automatic's growing influence over the core WordPress functionality, triggering debates on whether open source projects are at risk being absorbed by commercial interests. So
interesting.
This is kind of where things are. So from Automatic's perspective, the WordPress Wars are a necessary step to ensure that companies profiting from the WordPress ecosystem give back in meaningful ways. So Matt has long championed the open source movement, and he believes that the companies like WordPress Engine should contribute more to WordPress core development rather than solely benefiting from its widespread. So he's come out and said, all right, if you don't want to pay whatever it was, the 8% fee, come back with something else, or give us development time, or so at some point it felt like he was being reasonable. I'm hearing a lot of things on the other side saying that reasonableness is gone now, but I don't know when that ended. Automatic's acquisition of plugins like WooCommerce and now ACF. Now I don't know the details about them taking over WooCommerce, but there are things like if you're using the WooCommerce plugin and you're using Stripe as an example, they get a piece. WooCommerce gets a piece, which means Automatic gets a piece. But I believe it was WordPress Engine he was talking about. They went in and have changed the code so that WordPress doesn't get and WooCommerce doesn't get their cut. They've changed that code. So, I imagine big enterprises figure out like we can come in and say, hey, let's change this so that we're not attributing this to them or whatever. So that's a bunch of money gone. So when you start looking at this from Automatic's point of view, say you're using WordPress, it's your biggest thing. Let's face it, WP Engine is, if you're using WordPress, that they've fully advertised and built around that. So they should be giving back something to the community because they're a big company making a bunch of money. And then you turn around and say, well, if you're using these WooCommerce projects and you deliberately change them so the people who sell them aren't getting any money off that, okay, sounds like you're deliberately against them. So, sounds like there was some guilt on both sides as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Yeah. So you've really put a different perspective onto this. So when I was looking at it, it was, the employees are pissed at him. There was a bunch of things. So I get
The community is completely divided. Like I'm just
yeah,
trying to timeline it and put it on both sides in his perspective. Now, that advanced custom fields thing was really bad move, but what they did is they had cut the developer off from using developer tools, so it was no longer, they weren't able to develop it. And the rules generally are, if a developer can no longer develop a thing, and it's at risk, they'll take it over, or someone will.
yeah,
But they facilitated them not being able to do it. We cut you off, and now that you can't, we're going to take it. Leaves a pretty bad taste in everybody's mouth.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'll be
So
interested to see what comes of this, right? This is something definitely we'll need to watch, and
yeah, there's a bunch more information there on the article at torontostarts.com. Like I said, I went through just a bit of it here with the
yeah,
timeline and whatnot. I try to take a deep dive on these things, especially when it's something like this where we can do a timeline and take out both sides. And
yeah.
it's a great dive there. So wherever the link will be in the podcast show notes, just click on it and head over there. Any final words on this?
No, I'm interested to see what comes of this for sure.
All right. What do you think about this lucid dreaming and communicating while you're dreaming?
Yeah, this is cool. Obviously reminds me of the movie Inception. So just for those that to give you some background, researchers at REM Space have achieved what they call a breakthrough in dream communication, where two people successfully communicated in their dreams for a first time, exchanging a simple message. The participants were monitored remotely using specifically developed equipment that tracked brainwaves and other polysomnographic data. And the experiment involves sending a random word to a participant in a lucid dream state, inception, which was then communicated to another participant who entered a lucid dream state later, which is cool. So this achievement, it's seen as a step towards real-time communication in lucid dreams. I don't know why you would want to do that. And I didn't really kind of look into what the potential applications are, but kind of scares me because this is like subliminal messaging kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But more in depth.
the concept is really cool. Like it's amazing to think about it. That you can communicate to someone else in your dreams. Concept is really cool. But
Yeah.
when you flip it from okay, well, why do we need to do this? Okay, maybe coma patients.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
that's, maybe there's something there. Okay. But the first thing I see is great. That's another way they can beam advertising to you in your dreams. It's like, oh, great. You can't even escape it while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
And, someone's going to come up with we'll pay you to dream and, do our thing.
Yeah. It's crazy because of the potential negative implications of this as opposed to like positive. Now, you just brought up coma patients. I think that is phenomenal. Not because so there's two things to look at here, right? One is that they sent someone a message in their lucid dream. And the other one is that that message was shared with someone else. So there's two things here, right? I think that first one is interesting.
Yep.
But the second, like they're both scary, but I think that first one has more positive ramifications than I don't see the I guess yeah I don't see the use cases in the long run for um, for sharing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so article here on TorontoStars.com again. I did a little bit of a deep dive on this. Turns out there's no scientific papers backing all this yet, so nothing has been filed. So we're not sure what like that everything is 100% true because we don't have that information. But therapeutic uses, dream therapy, addressing nightmare or traumatic memories by consciously engaging them in dreams, mental health, exploring subconscious issues to alleviate anxiety, depression, innovative thinking, utilizing the dream state to overcome creative blocks or develop new ideas, skill
Mhm.
enhancement, practical real life skills within dreams to improve performance. Think about that. You're
Okay,
training while
yeah.
you're sleeping.
You
I
know,
guess that goes
in
back to
jails,
that Rick and Marty episode of The Night People. Did you see
yeah,
that? Yeah. Do you
yeah.
remember that one? Do you know that one?
I've started actually rewatching them. I'll have to look at it again, but yeah,
That that's the one where he was sleeping. They'd get their bodies to do stuff while they were unconscious and sleeping, like working out. So they'd get great abs and stuff. So anyway, yeah. Neuro research gaining insight to brain functionality and obviously human computer interface. So developing the brain computer interfaces would be interesting.
yeah. The other thing is, I didn't post this article, but thinking about, I think it was Demolition Man kind of thing, where
Yeah.
incarcerated people. Yeah. There
That's
actually is a company working on it right now, which kind of now it makes me think that could be a good use case for this, right?
Well, we're always talking about AI, and one of the things where I was talking about in this article is AI could personalize and enhance dream experience based on individual patterns. So
Yeah,
we know what makes you sleep better and whatever, so we can, produce a better sleep result.
yeah,
So, I mean, it's scary. You're right when they sit back and say, okay, we're going to start advertising in the dreams. We're going to start doing all this other stuff, but there are some interesting applications. Yeah.
yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see. Plus, the other one I didn't mention, but better sleep tracking and whatnot. Because I think what happens right now is none of these things do a good job. People say they do, and maybe they work for people, but I'm still in a situation where everyone I've tried says I only sleep twice a week. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I know I've got sleep issues, but I know I
So,
sleep more than twice a week.
so just the one thing that I've been looking at into that is a lot of it has to do with cortisol levels. So if you look into that and trying to regulate or lower your cortisol levels before sleep, it should help. It should help you stay asleep, get to sleep, and stay asleep. So just something I just started looking into it, but yeah.
All right, we got one more and we'll try and make it quick. You were
Yes,
talking about these EEG headphones.
this is cool. Yeah. So Master and Dynamic, they're a high end audio company. I was actually looking at them to get their new noise canceling headphones. They've got phenomenal quality, great headphones, but very high price. So, but they've introduced a new feature in their MW75 headphones called Neuro. What this technology does is it aims to track brain activity and provide users with insights into their cognitive state while listening to music or other audio content, which is cool, especially for people with ADHD, in my opinion, right? So it utilizes EEG sensors integrated into the headphone ear cups, which are striped, and they're designed to measure electrical activity in the brain, specifically focusing on alpha, beta, and gamma waves. Alpha waves, that for those that don't know, are associated with relaxation. Beta waves with active thinking and focus, and gamma with heightened cognitive processing. So, to use the feature, you've got to calibrate and do a bunch of things. But at the end of the day, it will display a focus score, which ranges from 0 to 100. Um, but that's kind of where the article goes, right? I think there's a huge bit, much wider use case than just while you're listening to music. I think just in general, right?
Absolutely. Um, some of those headphones cost a fair bit of money. I thought it was like 700 Canadian.
The Master Dynamics, I think they're around $700 to $1,200.
Yeah. So there's an article again on TorontoStarts.com where I took a deep dive into the science of EEG headphones. And
Yeah.
so I thought this was a cool idea. But how does it work and what's out there and what studies have been done? So um, there is robust scientific research supporting the efficacy of this EEG technology for monitoring mental states. The studies have shown EEG-based neurofeedback can improve attention, manage stress, and even aid in treatment of conditions like ADHD, like you're saying. In one study, researchers found that EEG neurofeedback could significantly improve cognitive performance by providing real-time feedback on brain activity. So yeah, go ahead.
This reminds me of that headband that we covered on ADHD.
Yeah.
I think this has, based on the information I have, and what we've talked about, I think this has a better usability use case than that headband that they came out with, if it works.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it does. And I've created this cute little video. Somebody's stressful at work, puts on the headphones, and he's a happy place to demonstrate how it's supposed to work. Once EEG data is collected, it goes through a series of filters to remove noise and extract relevant brainwave patterns. Signal processing is crucial for ensuring accuracy. The algorithms used in the EEG headphones are becoming more sophisticated. So it filters out all this stuff, and based on what you're doing, it sends you signals to get you back on track and keep you focused.
Yeah.
So this is supposed to be good for stress management too. The EEG headphones empower you to take control of your well-being. Muse S and NeuroSky MindWave Mobile 2 are popular devices used in stress management applications, especially for meditation and mindfulness purposes. It's supposed to help, like I said, ADHD and anxiety, but we don't know the impact on long-term cognitive performance.
No. Yeah. And how accurate it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By consistently using EEG neurofeedback, users may build better habits around managing mental fatigue and optimizing their focus. Over time, this could lead to sustained improvements in cognitive performance. But what are the concerns? While there's no significant study that indicates negative side effects of long-term EEG headphones, some users have raised concern about constant monitoring of brain activity. So you got a lot of electricity going around your brain. However, the non-invasive nature of the EEG technology ensures that the risks are minimal and sensors only detect electrical rushes. They don't interfere with the brain functioning. So is this...
I don't think they would interfere with the brain function. We've had EEGs for years, right?
Yeah, but you don't wear them all the time.
True.
It's like talking on your cell phone. We do it. But there are studies that say putting your cell phone next to your head for long periods is not good.
Yeah.
Because we've had those studies now.
Yeah.
But I don't honestly know if using Bluetooth headphones are better. You got the phone farther away, but you've got other things actually more invasive in your system, like anyway, we don't know what the long-term effect of it is. One of the main challenges is achieving consistent accuracy. For EEG sensors to work properly, they need to maintain close contact with the scalp. So the more hair you have, the less effective it's going to be. Whether they're comfortable over long periods of time, and another limitation is battery life. They require significant power.
I'm willing to try these because I'd love to get insights, especially with my ADHD brain.
Yeah.
The price point, I think, for these specific are $800 US. Yeah, and never mind the sound quality on these, phenomenal, right?
I haven't tried these specific ones.
Master and Dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, I've my favorite brand up to this point has been Grado out of New York.
Okay.
Love their headphones, but I haven't tried them all, so I can't. What was that store in Toronto that used to have the wall of headphones? Babler Radio. They used to have
Radio.
Yeah, they have to, you go in and try it, and I went and tried it, and that's where I picked it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's
These
cool.
ones and what was the other? There's another high end one. Anyways, we can talk about it. Oh, B&O, Bang& Olufsen.
Yeah.
Another great. But yeah. Anyways.
So, what do you got going on, John?
Nothing. You and I are working on something stealth.
Yeah, we're supposed to
For
be another
those.
call already.
Yeah. Already. Yeah, we're running a few minutes late, but not much. Just working with some clients on some funding, and that's about it. How about you?
Things are good. Working on our launch a course in a weekend. That's happening the weekend after November 14th. I can't remember the exact dates, but I'll publish that soon. Yeah, a lot of other stuff going on. Check out torontostarts.com and obviously Startup Investor Drinks on November 14th.
Yeah, and on November 14th, anyone going to the Taylor Swift concert, hey,
Oh,
come
yeah.
to Toronto Starts beforehand. We've
Get some
got drinks, pizza, and pitching. So come get some work done. Maybe write it off as a business expense, and then go to the concert.
And check out our other podcasts. Who Are These Startups? Startup Talk, Future Tech, and there's more to come. Thanks everyone for paying attention. Thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.